Well, what a great show right now. I'm excited. So you ask how does racing tie together, and everybody.
I think we should open with that.
I think I'm going to open.
How is it that Carrot Top is on a racing podcast?
Well, first of all, Carrot Top is an incredible supporter of NASCAR racing. He comes to a lot of races, especially out there in Vegas, where he lives and works most of the time. But we met, believe it or not, back in 2002. When I was like 10 at that time.
Yeah, right. Sure you were.
And I was driving for Andy Petrie, and CT was doing the 1-800-CALL ATT commercials, Call Collect ATT, and they Andy Petrie Racing and AT&T put an agreement together. And guess whose face and hair was all over the hood of my race car?
Mm-hmm.
Rusty Wallace.
Yours truly. Yeah.
Yeah. So, that was the start of getting to meet a great guy. Really fun. Always great around my family. They love him to death. But
yeah.
So, what'd you think about your first?
Kenny Schrader drove at one race, and his mom said, "Who's the woman on the hood of the car?" Literally, I'm standing right next to him. She goes, "That's him. That's Carrot Top, Mom." I don't know who that is.
I love that, man. You are full of one-liners. Of course, that's your business, and part of our show involves finding out who you were before who you are. You're a world superstar as far as I'm concerned. I mean, everybody everywhere knows you, knows your name, what you do, and but what started it? When did you get involved, and what was when you were a kid? Tell us about your early life.
I literally was 6 or 7 years old, and I would sneak out and watch the night show when they had the comedians on, whether it was whatever comic was on. I would study them. And the next day I go to school and I try to repeat some of the things that they had said that night. Sometimes got me in trouble. And I remember when George Carlin came on the scene, I was just enamored. I was like, wow, this guy. He also reminded me of my father. He's like a cranky old dude. So I thought it's kind of funny. He's like my dad, except a funny version of my dad. So I just loved his style and loved his brain. And so I started to just kind of write jokes and observational kind of stuff. And, even as a kid, like I was maybe 12 and we were on the beach in Florida with all my friends, and the cops, we had a big bonfire, and the cops came down and said, "You can't have a fire in the beach." And of course, I'm the oldest one out of the group. So I said, "Why can't we have a fire in the beach? We're sitting next to two things that put water. We have water and sand, two things that put out a fire. It can't be any safer. Where do you want us to take it?" He said, "Take it in the woods." So that was like the first, the cops like, "Were you trying to be funny?" I'm like, "No, I'm being honest. Like, this is the safest place to put a fire out." So it kind of started at a young age, just kind of observing and commenting on life and, questioning life. There was a street sign that said "slow children at play," but the picture of the kid didn't have feet. And I said, "No wonder they're slow. They don't have feet." So it was always those observational things that kind of went into kind of how I do my act now. It's kind of, how we shoot down a spy balloon. I mean, anything happens to be in the news, will be in the show for sure.
So talk about the spy balloon. I don't mean to interrupt the story, but so what's that skit going to be like?
Oh, I did it already. I'm on it already. I'm on it the day of. I'm like observational. I've always been the one that I'm almost too soon for the joke, the crowd is not even caught up yet, But I started that young, and then when I got into probably one of the most influential comics was Gallagher. And I was 14, and I went to the show with my father, and my dad drove me. My dad worked at NASA, so big comedy guy. So he came to Gallagher, and I never seen my dad laugh out loud. I was like, it was the coolest thing. And so I said to my father on the way home, I said, "I think I figured out what I want to do. I want to be a comedian." And my dad looked at me and says, "A comedian?" I said, "Yeah, like Gallagher." And he said, "You do that? That's probably not going to happen." And I was kind of like bummed. I'm like, "Well, you don't really know. It's not going to happen. And why would you say that? Parents isn't." So anyway, we drive, and I said, "What do you want me to do when I get older then?" He said, "I want you to be an engineer like me and shoot off rockets at NASA." And I said, you do know that's probably never going to happen, Dad. Like, I'm dumb, Dad. I'm the dumb kid. The other brother goes to the Air Force Academy and flies F-16s, and I glue on rubber chickens and tennis rackets. That's pretty much what I do. So it just kind of worked out that I started going to the different comedy shows live, like Gallagher, and I tried out a joke on him. He said, "What's your best joke?" And I said, I'd pull out a little bottle of Visine, and they say Visine gets the red out, and I'd pour it in my hair, and I said, it doesn't do anything. And Gallagher's like, that's a great joke. So I started writing all these stupid jokes, and I'd run them by Gallagher first, like, hey, is this good? And put together a little skit, and then I started going to everywhere I could do, where you'd win a free steak dinner. I mean, that's how you got paid back then, just a Walkman radio. You'd win like I had a closet full of Walkman radios because I kept winning these competitions. And then I moved to Charlotte. And that's when I think I started getting into all the I had gone to NASCAR races in Daytona as a kid because I lived in Florida. But when I moved to Charlotte is when I really started putting together Carrot Top and the whole thing kind of all came together.
So I was looking at some things earlier today, last night, I guess you'd say, that's got Carrot Top related to it. One of the two, you're an entrepreneurial business guy that owns a little bit of everything, or a bunch of people have stole your name, one or the other.
Yeah, there's a few Carrot Top Industries or whatever those things are. Where it sells toilet paper or some kind of stuff. I thought
the best two was one was a flag company and one was a fertility company. So I thought those hand in hand. So what prompted you to move to Charlotte? And I assume you were in Florida at that time. What got you to come to the Charlotte area?
There was a guy that was booking all these comedy clubs in Charlotte. He had a whole bunch of them, not just in Charlotte, but around the South. So Charlotte was the centralized city, the big city. And then all around from Raleigh to Mobile to, the whole South. He had 25, 30 clubs. And so I went to Charlotte and I did kind of an audition for the guy at the Comedy Zone. And I did so well, he came up to me after it and said, do you have a manager? And I said, no. And he said, do you want one? I said, I guess. And he said, I can book you for, 2 years straight. And so I said, okay. And so I just moved. I met a girl there and I just moved to Charlotte and that was it. And then I started doing the college circuit. That's really what, after in the clubs there, I'm very, very lucky in getting these college gigs. They had a thing called NACA, and National Association of College Activities, and these people you'd go to these boards, these big things, and you'd audition in a sense. And if the colleges liked you, they'd buy you, And so I went to this different regions, and I did really well. And then I got to go to the national one in Dallas, and I think I beat Harry Chapin's record or something like that, 5,000 gigs or something. And so I was booked in clubs and colleges for, the rest of my life at that point. I don't think I had a weekend off. And so I would get a chance to really perform, every day, twice a day, and really get to work on the timing. That's what takes a lot of time for these comics is a lot of stage time,
Yeah. So
it's not easy being funny, Mike. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I admire it. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, what intrigues me is that he's not just funny, but he's got all these props.
Right.
So
I guess Dad's engineering thought must come into play, right?
Dad's engineering definitely, joking aside, did come into play. I mean, that really is kind of a side of my act that's kind of using my father's left side of the brain.
Yeah. So as you were working your way, we'll call the base out of Charlotte, where you were you were getting booked in all these colleges, all these nightclubs. I mean, then I assume it just started exploding, or was that same guy your agent, or did you switch around?
No, he was still my agent for a long time, actually. Yeah, and it did kind of do that. It just kind of blew up. I mean, I was, and then I started getting on TV. So it really all started the same. Then I got the AT&T commercial. So it all really did come around that same time when I moved to Charlotte. It was kind of a smorgasbord of everything coming around, movies and TV, and I would do like the Tonight Show, and then I did Regis and Kathy Lee, and then I would do a movie, and of course the phone commercials. Those were like huge. They were on every 5 seconds they'd show one of those stupid commercials. So it was great to get my name out there and get. Although people didn't know I was a comedian, they just thought I was a phone guy. I thought I'd go to towns. They said, "What are you doing in town?" I said, "I'm doing a show." They said, "Like a phone show?" I don't get it. I'm like, "No, not a phone show." So they just thought I was this AT&T guy. They had no idea what I actually did. So it was fun.
So to back up a little bit, and I don't know to what point this was. So there was a show, right, that somebody told me you got your start on Star Search or some deal,
Search.
But you finished second. Some other guy won it, which nobody hears about him or knows who he is. What was that show about? At
Well,
that
it was huge. It was with Ed McMahon, and it was, like, as a kid watching Star Search. Everybody watched Star Search. Everybody that was on it, became famous from Star Search, and so I was which is funny about this. I was the big favorite to just take the whole thing because the style of my act and the way it is on television. Everybody was like, "Oh, Carrot Top's why even show up? It's going to be a shoe-in. Carrot Top's going to just destroy this thing." So I get there thinking, okay, I'm the favorite, and I got blown out in the first quarter. So. Yeah, I don't know what it was, but I lost the first round, and I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm supposed to win the whole thing!" And not only was I shocked, but all the comics were shocked. Like, wait, he's supposed to win this whole thing. So it was it was what it was. I mean, it didn't hurt my career at all because I was still doing all these other things. It was just kind of it's fun to. I still play it in my show. Because it's funny. I used to want to see where I lost in Star Search, and everybody laughs. Yeah, of course I do. And it's funny because I they do like 2 1/4 stars, and Challenger gets 3 3 1/3 and 3 1/4. So you see my face looking at the TV like, what the hell, did I win or lose? I don't know if I have no idea. Is a quarter more than a third? I don't know. So it's kind of an honest. It's really funny because you can see my face just trying to count.
trying to count.
Yeah, trying to count if I won. I don't know what a third, a quarter, if what me. It's weird.
So when you were on Star Search, who did win? Do you remember?
Well, the one against me was Bob Zaney, and Bob Zaney actually is still a really funny guy. He just does comedy. People normally always yell out every night, "Whatever happened to him?" I said, "He's getting my car to LA."